Hi, everyone. My name is Katrina Haynes, and I will be talking today about using gamification in PE to maximize student learning and student engagement. A little bit about me. I have been a physical education teacher at Clinton Elementary School, which is in Chicago, for 16 years. In Chicago, I serve on the health and physical education leadership team, and I am a mentor to new PE teachers in our district. At IAFERD, I am lucky to serve on the executive board as the National Board Committee Chairperson, and I am also the Chicago District Past President. So the objectives for today, we're going to identify a new strategy that differentiates instruction for all learners and can be used as a formative assessment to gauge student learning in your classroom. And we're also going to discuss how gamification uses elements of a video game that make it so appealing and so motivating to students, and how it intrinsically and extrinsically motivates them to increase their learning and engagement. And throughout this presentation, I am hoping that you will create your own gamification lesson that can be implemented in an upcoming unit. So we're going to start with talking about what is gamification. Gamification is a motivational tool that turns physical education subject matter into a real-life video game experience. It borrows the elements of a video game that makes it fun and addicting, kind of like those achieving mini goals and gaining status quo and collecting items like badges and tokens. And it keeps them intrinsically and extrinsically motivated to want to keep on achieving and keep on learning more. So here's just a little bit of a thought process and something to think about gamification and how gamification is everywhere, and it's becoming more and more popular as time goes on. And it's not just a video game thing that is only meant for our male students or something guys would like. As you can see from on the picture on the left, that all genders are gaming, and this is everywhere. And gamification is something that is being spent. CEOs all around the world are spending money on bringing this element into their corporate world as well. So as I said, it's everywhere. We don't even realize it. We see it with our credit cards and our royalty points and earning dollars back and points to go on vacation. Or I always like to go to Starbucks every morning, and so I get super excited to use my app and get stars so I could get a free coffee sooner or later. We also, we think of different apps that we use, like Pokemon Go, where it turns an average walk into a whole gaming experience. And of course, we join sports teams and even clubs like Girl Scouts, where we earn badges or we're trying to earn a championship trophy. Gamification is awesome because it intrinsically and extrinsically motivates you. You get the extrinsic motivation from earning things like promotions, pay raises, bonuses, tokens of appreciation of some sort. And then it intrinsically motivates you because it's fun, it's exciting. You're curious about what the next step is going to be, and you get some sort of choice going through it. In the student world, in our classroom, it fosters a growth mindset towards learning. It's student-centered, it gives them choice and voice, and it develops their own self-responsibility. It has this built-in fun, and there's these goals and these different levels that they're always trying to achieve and try to get to the next step. It also gives autonomy, mastery, and purpose to each of your lessons that you included in. Gamification changes things into the positive. It's an easy way to create challenges and fun competition that focuses on students doing the work while being internally motivated to keep pushing forward. So it avoids the like same old, the same thing we do day in and day out, the same activities, the same different exercises, the same drills. And it takes it up a notch. It makes you practice in a different way. And it scaffolds learning and the learning activities that we choose to help students get from point A to point B at their own learning pace. So it technically differentiates instruction for every single learner in the classroom, and it's authentically done, so it's easy and it flows naturally. How did I come up with this? Well, I didn't. I have seen other PE teachers do it, and then I read a book for my own personal growth, which you see on the screen, called Drive. And it talks about what motivates us as humans. And it's autonomy, meaning, and mastery. And this whole book was centered around those three things. And it kind of always makes me think again, how does this apply to my teaching world? So I know that autonomy means that I have choice and I have an opportunity to show my creativity and show who I really am. And when I get the choice, and so when I do this in my classroom, if I give my students a choice of equipment or choice of a partner or a group or choice of an activity, they seem to be more engaged and more into it as well. And so, something I had to ask myself when I was reading this book is, does my class make my students feel like they are part of something bigger? Like, do I make them feel that they are a part of this class and they have meaning and purpose, and the things we're doing are meaningful and purposeful to their lives? And I feel, and according to this book, and I actually totally believe it, that is the key to like driving you and motivating you to wanting to be a part of this and to want something more for yourself. And as a teacher, I have to always say, if you cannot explain the why of everything you do in your class, and if you don't explain it to your students, then that's a problem. They should always know why they're doing this and why it's important to them. And then the mastery aspect. We always want to get better at something. Seeing yourself progress and get to the next level, it feels good. You feel like you're accomplishing something. And it's especially motivating when it's challenging to you. And when you finish it, you're like, yes, I got that. And so when I think of this thought process and I apply it to school, I could see this happening in maybe FitnessGram, right? Where students start off at maybe the beginning of the year and they're not doing so well. But as we progress and we work on it and we continue to grow, we get better at the end of the year. And then, of course, that's where I came up with this gamification. I started seeing this in other people's classrooms. And I said, how can I apply this to my classroom? This seems like something that students would be into. It gives them that idea of advancing to the next level and trying to master something. And so I started to do some research about it. And so the first lesson I made looked like this. I saw on Twitter, one of my favorite places to go for amazing resources, and I saw jump rope ninjas. And this revamped my jump rope unit. My jump rope unit was suffering. Students found the skill very hard, especially in primary grades, and they always felt unmotivated. I remember having a first grader leave my class going, this was so hard and I'm never going to be good at it. And I didn't want my students to walk out of class each day of our jump rope unit to feel like that. And so I was like, okay, what can I do? So this was an amazing tool where students, if you notice, to get a white belt. So it's very easy for all students to be successful in this type of activity. So what this did was it gamified my jump rope unit. So we did our different skill development activities. We had a jump rope unit where we started jumping over lines and jumping over a jump rope without it moving, and we learned how to twirl, and we went through the different stages of the unit. However, when it came down to actually jumping rope, I started with a jump rope ninjas. And so I introduced it, and I made this humongous triangle that was bigger than some of my students, and each level represented one of the belts that the students can receive. And as you can see, in order to receive the white belt, and it goes along the lines of the colors of the belts of karate, and as you can see, and to earn a white belt, you just need to be able to jump over that jump rope one time, which again is a challenge for some of my primary students. So they have to get their twirl correct, and they have to jump up over that rope without messing up. And when they do, they get to earn a jump rope ninja. And so they go over to the buckets and they pick out a paper and they get to sign it and give them their autograph, and they get to glue it onto the pyramid. And then after they earn their first jump rope belt, they have to move on to level 2, which level 2 is 3 jumps. And so now as students progress up to the different levels, they actually are taking a little bit longer to earn that belt. At first, everybody's getting a white belt and they're all so excited because they can't wait to go over to the board and sign the board. And that's okay, and that's great. And it's very clustery, and all the kids want to go and they're waiting in line, but they're anxious to do it. And I tell them, okay, we'll wait and we're going to practice to get to the next level, and then we'll put our ninja on. And so they're just excited to get that ninja. And so then as students are progressing, they get to show either a buddy or a teacher or an aide that's in my room if they earned their badge. And as they start to progress through the different belts, they get to start helping the teacher, and they get to start observing their friends and making sure they're accomplishing their goals at each of the different belt levels. And so as you can see, they continue to fill up the pyramid as our unit goes on, and it's quite the accomplishment then when the students actually get to earn their black belt. I have never had a student who's been able to do it in one day, but they are excited and they come in motivated. And even when I have other activities or other lessons, they're like, oh, but are we going to get time to do our jump rope ninjas? Because again, they're just so excited to try to keep on getting to that next level because they're so used to that video game aspect and that earning and that wanting to achieve and win the game. And so here's another way, again, another amazing idea from Twitter that is showing how gamification can be used in a fitness activity. So it is taking a regular fitness station, and it is taking it to the next level. And so it's, again, a fitness station that you already possibly have, and it's taking it to another level by, number one, adding the element of a superhero. So students loved the Black Panther, right? It was quite the epic movie, and it's everybody's favorite superhero. And so now it's the Black Panther workout. And so now, number one, they're like, ooh, that's exciting. And as you can see, it's not just, okay, go to the station and do a lateral shuffle. It's now you have a choice. You can go to and try to do the lateral shuffle at each of the different levels. So I might time the station. So I believe in this activity, each station was timed for, I believe, 1 minute. And so in that 1 minute, students are trying to progress through the different families, right? So those are the different Avenger families. So there's the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Pendragons, the Queen's Vengeance. So those are all the different families, right, from the superhero comics. And so it goes from the most basic to the most powerful family. And so again, you want to get to Avenger status, you have to work out that much harder to get to that status. And so kids are now motivated to possibly do those lateral shuffles even more so than they were when you just put a flyer or you put a post-it and said, okay, here's my GIF, here's the exercise, you're going to do this for 1 minute, go. Now all of a sudden this lateral shuffle becomes really exciting because it has this comic book theme, and I don't want to be in the Queen's Vengeance, and I don't want to make it to Fantastic Four, I want to be an Avenger. So if I am going to be an Avenger, I have to get to this level. And if I'm going to work out like the Black Panther, I have to get to this level. So it's making students excited and a little bit more intrinsically motivated to get to that next level and to work out that much harder to do so. And of course, gamification can be included in sports skill training. So this is a awesome gamification where the student is independently or working with a partner. So they're both working with a partner and independently on their own checklist. So they get to check each of the levels when they're done. And so in this activity, I don't check the students and make sure that they progress to the next level. This is more like a self-assessment, I would say. So they're going to assess themselves on their skill. So each student has to start at level 1, and they have to do those basic tennis drills. And then they can move on to level 2, where they're actually lifting and tapping and doing backhands with themselves or with a partner. So then they can go to level 3. And then level 3 is they're tossing the ball, or their partner is tossing the ball to them. And so each progression is a little bit harder than the last one. And then the last one is the one that all the students want to do, right? Because every student wants to play the game. I want to play the game, Ms. Haynes. When can we play a tennis game? Well, we have to learn the tennis skills first. And so right before we play the game, I might implement an activity like this where they have to prove to me that they're ready to play the game. So before they play the game, they have to warm up their bodies and practice the skills in order to be successful in the game. So after maybe the unit of skill development activities where we have gone through all of these skills already, now they're self-assessing themselves and trying to get to the different levels. And then they get to earn the right to play the game at the end with their partner over the net, which is because they've successfully earned that, because they've gotten through all the other levels first, which are all the skill development activities that I want them to know, that I want them to be successful at. I'm not too worried about my 4th graders being able to rally back and forth with a partner. I'm more worried about them being able to get the proper grip and being able to know how to control the ball and control the direction that it goes. And so doing an activity like this is reinforcing those skills before letting them play the game. And again, these are just 2 other ways. So this is taking Super Mario and doing different catching and passing challenges. And then this is another one where it's a partner catch. So instead of, if I'm teaching the overhand throw or the underhand throw in PE, instead of having students just practice the skill with a partner, I take it to the next level, and now they're practicing the skill with a bunch of different elements. Now, if I gave them the choice to pick one of these activities, they might all want to pick the chicken, or they might all want to pick the frisbee. And those might be the most popular or the most difficult ones for them to do. So whatever, I want them to start at level 1. So they have to start with a regular ball. And once they can accomplish the goal with the regular ball, then they can move on to the more difficult item or the more wanted item. And so again, it just, instead of just giving them a random choice or forcing them to use this equipment, I'm giving them the opportunity to earn another piece of equipment. So it makes them excited to get that piece of equipment. And another way that this can be done, as you can see in the picture, is if you have lagnets and you use lagnets in your school for like assessment purposes, it's an amazing way to track your gamification. So if you have a whiteboard, students have their own plagnet magnets, and when you could just stick a piece of paper up with the different levels, and students can go and put their plagnet in the different places as they achieve the different levels. So you don't have to make a humongous pyramid like I did for my ninjas. I could just simply put a ninja belt down, and as students are progressing through the different levels, they can just put their plagnet in that level. So again, it's just a different way to do it. I thought my way was pretty visually appealing. I've also, the first year I did it, I just took the level and I had the students write their name down as well, kind of like you can see this student doing right here in this picture. So now you're probably asking me, okay, so what does this look like? And so I always like to, my favorite and probably my opinion would be the best place to start with gamification is taking a skill that your students have a difficult time doing. So I would say, so my most difficult skill for my students to do is volleyball. So anytime I get a volleyball in their hands, it's a real big challenge for them to do so. So like, for example, our shape grade level outcome for my sixth graders is that they're supposed to be able to do a two-handed volley using a mature pattern with control in a variety of practice activities. But when I do that with them, it's almost impossible for that to actually happen unless it's like a balloon or it's a beach ball. They're pretty good with that. But once they get the volleyball, it's kind of scary and it's really difficult, and they get really frustrated. And so I'm gonna use volleyball as my example as I go forward. So the steps to gamify a lesson is to, number one, start with a SMART goal. So what do you want to accomplish? So my SMART goal would be revolving around getting my sixth grade students to be able to do a forearm pass in a volleyball game or in a practice activity. And then you need to have a tracking method. So some way you're going to track this, like for instance, those belts in the jump rope. So my ninja belts, that is a way I tracked their progress. And then frequent feedback. So while they're practicing and trying to get those levels, or doing that tennis tracker where they're kind of independently trying to move through the levels by themselves, it gives me an opportunity to be giving them constant feedback, and I'm constantly watching them, and I'm constantly aware of what my students are or are not learning at that time. And then you should have some sort of student choice. So again, it gets them excited and motivated to do it. So when I do this, I'm going to use my volleyball example as my SMART goal. So when I say my SMART goal, I'm going to use my volleyball, and I'm going to say, by the end of the unit, I want my students to perform the two-handed volley with control using at least 3 of the 5 critical elements with a partner continuously 15 times. So I want them to do the two-handed volley 15 times with a partner. I'm going to accomplish this by giving students opportunities to practice the skill using easier elements like balloons, beach balls, and volleyball trainers. So again, my goal is pretty specific. It's measurable. I know what I want them to do. I want them to do the 15. I want them to be able to hit 15 times with their partner. It's pretty specific. I explain how I want to do it. I explain how the route they're going to use to get there. It's pretty realistic, I hope, and I think it could be achievable for my students. And I gave it to the end of the unit, so that was my kind of time measurement. So I didn't pick that SMART goal out of anywhere. I used our SHAPE grade level outcomes. If you do not know about this document, you need to know about it. SHAPE has done an amazing job of taking our standards and breaking them down by grade level from kindergarten through 12th grade, pretty much telling you exactly what each grade level needs to learn or should be learning at that time. And it's kind of you taking those and making them your own and figuring out which ones are the most important in your program. So I know that that is one of the standards that I try to accomplish at the end of the year with my sixth graders. So that is where I got that from. And I used the glows that are attached to this presentation. So with this presentation is also a packet. And if I were you, the best way to, I think, go through the rest of this presentation is to make a copy of that packet and kind of follow along with me as I create my lesson with volleyball. And you can be then creating your lesson so it's ready to go once you are back in that gym and once you are ready to utilize this for your unit. So thinking about that skill that is kind of difficult to teach, that your students have a really hard time with, that they get so frustrated with, and you think that maybe we need to revamp it to make it a little bit more fun and exciting and get your students a little bit more motivated with it. So thinking about what skill that could be for you, and then kind of going forward, you maybe pausing this webinar and working on it so that it is like a work in progress, or it is ready to go as you are as after you're done with this webinar. So I think that is the best way to probably utilize this, instead of, so then you could walk away with like, I got this and I have accomplished something out of listening to Katrina for an hour. So that is my suggestion to you. So in your handout on step 1, it says for you to complete your SMART goal. So thinking by the end of the unit, what do you want your students to do? So look at those glows and how do you want to accomplish this? So taking those SHAPE grade level outcomes, checking them out, and then picking one that is what you want to work on to gamify. So now you're going to tell me, and as you can see, there I am, and I'm going to say, well, hello, I'm already a good teacher, right? I've already tried to give my students the option of volleyball and trainers and beach balls and balloons, but they just run right to the volleyballs, even though based on their ability level, they should probably be using the balloons. So I don't know how many of you have that same problem as Bitmoji Katrina does, but I know anytime I've ever just kind of like put all of my beach balls and trainers and everything out there, and I say, okay, you guys, you and your partner, or you can pick which ball you're going to use today. And every single one of my middle schoolers, they want to use the real volleyball. If I let my fourth graders, they would want to use the volleyballs too, because that's the exciting part, right? But they actually shouldn't be using the volleyballs because maybe they're not developmentally ready for them, right? They need to practice the form. They need to practice the skill, and using the balloon or the beach ball in sixth grade might be kind of embarrassing to them. So that's kind of where the gamification part comes in. So I create a tracking method, some sort of checklist, some sort of Plagnet whiteboard, or you can construct a triangle thing like I did for my ninjas, or again, just using a piece of paper, a print, like something you print off the computer. So here is what I created for my volleyball, for if I was going to use my SMART goal volleyball and the forearm pass. And this is what the display would look like in my classroom. So this is just an example. This is not like the end all be all answer, But the first step would be all my students in the room, all my 8th graders would get a balloon. And so we can hit the balloon 20 times to one another. So this would be at the point in the unit where they have already practiced the skill to themselves, and now they're about to start using the forearm pass to a partner. So now I have them with their partner, and I give them all a balloon. And then my 8th graders look at me like, what do you want me to do with this? And I tell them they have to show me the forearm pass properly done using the balloon 20 times without dropping the balloon and with having the correct hand and body movement in the pass. So that is a goal that most of my middle schoolers can accomplish with a balloon. And so now I'm going around to each group and I'm watching them. They're raising their hand when they think they're ready. I tell them they have to accomplish it at least 2 times before I come to see them. And so they could be ready to show me. And then once they show me, or I kind of get the gist that they could do it, then they can be rewarded with the next level. And so then I would have that second paper right there with a piece of construction paper underneath it. And I would tell them they get to sign their name. They get to give me their autograph. And so they would sign their name, and then they see that their reward is that they could use the beach ball or a volleyball. But at this point, I would say that it would probably be the beach ball. So now they have to use the beach ball, and they have to they have to use the beach ball and do it again. Or they could have a volleyball, and then they have to toss, hit, catch. So now they're still not bumping back and forth to each other. They have to toss to their partner bumps it back to them, and then they catch it. And so now they have to do that 20 times to their partner, and their partner has to do it 20 times to them in order to accomplish level 2. So in level 2, maybe I will give them a volleyball. Maybe I would add another level and have beach balls be included. Beach balls are always a challenge, so I might give them the volleyball and have them toss, hit, and catch to one another. And so they have to do that successfully before they can move on to the next level. Where if you see then the second paper is telling you the reward. So once they accomplish that, they get to again give their autograph on the wall, and they get to then they get to try to hit back and forth, and they could let the ball bounce once before hitting. So again, that could be another level. I could take out the bounce if I don't think that my students need it. So again, based on your student's ability level, you're kind of deciding what your 3 levels are going to be for this lesson. So if I think that, okay, maybe they could hit, but I'll let it bounce once. So again, it's just an idea. And so then once they are doing that and they are able to accomplish that goal, and now they are ready, they could reward themselves by rallying. So now they're going to rally the ball back and forth with a partner, and they're going to see if they could do that 15 times. So again, level 3 is the most difficult task. So this is the last level of this lesson, and it's the goal. This is what I want my students to accomplish at the end. So now, if you notice, during these 3 levels, number 1, the instruction was differentiated for all of my learners from the get-go. So every student, no matter if they were on the volleyball team or not, they had to start with a volleyball. So it was an even playing field. Nobody felt insecure for using a beach ball or a balloon. So now they had to accomplish the goal with the balloon. If they're a skilled volleyball player, that happened really quick. If they aren't a skilled volleyball player, that might take them some extra time. No big deal. They're working at their own pace. They're intrinsically motivated to do it right because they want to get to the next level. They want to get to the harder thing. They don't want to be using the balloon. They want to be using the real volleyball. So now when they get to level 2, they get the real volleyball. That's like the reward aspect. That's the motivation to get there, right? I don't want the balloon. I want the ball. So now they got there, but now they still don't get exactly the goal. They don't get what they want. They just want to hit back and forth, but it goes all over. So now they have to accomplish the next goal, that second goal of toss, hit, catch. So they have to go, and this is actually the skill I want them to be super successful at. So this might be the one that I watch them thoroughly, and I say, oh, I have to watch you. I have to see it. So I'm watching to see if they're actually hitting the ball correctly. They're extending. It's going like a rainbow, right? And that they're going to be successful at the next level. And then I'll keep on helping them and giving them that feedback so they can accomplish their goal. So now they're again still intrinsically motivated. Again, they want to get to level 3. They want to sign their name on the wall. They want to earn the right to be hitting back and forth with their partner because that's the most fun thing to do. And again, I want them to get there because that's the goal. And then once they get to level 4, they have accomplished the goal. You did it. You got to level 4. You did it 15 times without messing up. And again, this for the students, this might be a challenge. This might be what they're working on. So, but they're not going to get bored of it because, hey, I've accomplished all of these other levels. So I want to get my name on the board. I want to complete the task. I want to finish the game, right? I want to accomplish the grade level outcome, ideally. So here is Bitmoji Katrina, and she's pretty much saying, so wait a second, I take the elements of a video game to scaffold the learning for all students. And then all students have to start at the easier level and then earn the ability to use the volleyballs when they become skilled enough to make it to the next level. As their ability increases, the task gets a little bit more difficult so that you never get bored. It's like tricking them into practicing the skill. So now this is your turn. This is where you're going to think about those levels. So how are you going to scaffold that skill? So you have that grade level outcome in front of you right now. So how are you going to break down your grade level outcome to 3 to 4 levels for your students to accomplish? So again, starting out with that easier task, starting with that low level activity that most all students can accomplish pretty easily, pretty quickly. You want level 1 to be easy, just like in Super Mario Brothers. Level 1 was super easy, but as you progress to the different levels, it became even harder. So then it kind of motivated you to keep on going. So how are you going to get students buy-in at the beginning at level 1 and then scaffold the skill and scaffold the learning to make it a little more challenging to then ultimately at the end be working on that grade level outcome. But again, with more success than just jumping to it right away. So now here's where the feedback comes in. And this is my favorite part as a teacher, is that with this, when I implement this into my lesson, it technically, after level 1, it frees me up a lot to go around and help the students. And it gives me a chance to see where my students are at and which ones are struggling and which ones need more assistance from me. So I love overhead projectors. I am so happy again for my Twitter universe, my IAFord family, who shares so many amazing things on there, and they share GIFs all the time. GIFs, I don't know which one you want to call it, but I use those, and they're constantly playing on the screen, so they're seeing what skill they're working on and what the ultimate goal looks like. And so something like you see over there maybe is projected on my screen, if that's the skill we're doing, which it wouldn't be, but it would be on my screen, and I would then be getting to go around and help my students. So again, if you think about it, right, we talked about these 4 different how to ramp up your gamification, right? So it needs to be relatable to the students. So as you saw the Black Panther workout, it was relatable. There was some sort of autonomy, right? They don't feel like they're being told what to do. Students have some level of autonomy. They're working at their own pace. They're working at their own level. They are intrinsically motivated to keep on going. I'm not the one telling them they have to. And then again, it's the mastery. It's that intrinsic motivation. I want to win. I want to earn it. I want to get to that next level. And I want to keep getting better. And then there's purpose. They see that there's some sort of meaning behind this. What I have a goal. I have this mindset that this is where I'm ending up. This is what I'm trying to do. And it's really clear to the students. And again, these are just different ways. So if you look, there's different motivations. So if you see, there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, and we talked about that a lot already. And then we see how those intrinsic motivations, like social interaction or competition or having that purpose. The gamification aspect of it is those cooperative activities, working independently, friendly competition. And then the desired outcome is having fun, self-satisfaction, working hard to master the goal, having purpose and finding the purpose in what they're doing. And then those extrinsic motivations, right? So that advancement, the recognition, the high five, the points, the signing your name on the paper, getting the token. So that the gamification part of that is those achievements, those badges, all of that stuff. And then again, the incentive is they feel challenged, they feel satisfaction from putting their name on that paper or getting that token or getting to, hold that beanbag for the rest of the class period. And so they're working hard to get to the top, right? To compete and to be better than the competition, so to speak. So again, feedback should be super meaningful, and I can't stress that enough. If you want students to know you care about them, your feedback means the world to them. Some tips on feedback is to correct quietly. Don't scream, "Hey, Joey, why are you doing that?" across the room, right? Go up to Joey. Say, "Hey, can you not do that?" Again, it takes something. It means something totally different to the student when that approach is taken. Don't compare students. Like, I think a bad habit we have is, "Oh, look at Johnny, he's doing XYZ so well." But again, you may not be as skilled as Johnny. So again, instead of competing and comparing, you're actually it gives students some sort of anxiety, increased anxiety, and it lowers their confidence and it lowers their engagement. They don't want to do anything for you. Be specific. Don't just say good job. Tell them what they're doing good. Let them know the exact thing that they're doing well. I saw you put your hands correctly and extend so well when you were doing your forearm pass, instead of good job on that forearm pass. What did they do? You bent your knees, you got under that ball, way to go. It means so much more. And then students know exactly what they're doing right so they can keep doing it. And always end your lesson with clear action points. Again, if you don't know by now, the what, the why, the how, always telling your students, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and this is why we're doing it. And then end like that. End with, hey, did we accomplish our goal? What were we doing today? What did we learn? And if you can see, as I said, you're giving congruent feedback, right? Not being that teacher in the picture who's saying good job to 20 people, because hey, guess what? After a while, kids pick up on that. And look at those kids wondering, how many times does he say good job in one day? And you don't want your kids to think like that. You want it to be specific. And like, oh, good job doing this. What did they do exactly? So again, being specific. So as Bitmoji Katrina says, I have a variety of different learners in my class, and it's sometimes hard to keep them all interested in the lesson. But using gamification elements in class will help you, because it will be, it's like a game. It makes a game out of learning a new skill. And while they're working on it, it's important for me to give individualized feedback to keep students motivated and keep them going, and help me to build relationships with those students. So this is where you kind of think about that feedback you're going to be giving students. So on step 3 of your packet, you will see that you have some chances to think about how you will be giving that feedback. And it's not the verbal feedback that you're planning right now. It is more the token. How are you going to reward students? So right now, you should have your skills scaffolded into 3 or 4 levels. So my volleyball forearm pass is scaffolded from a balloon to a toss, hit, catch, to a rally. Or I'm sorry, to a rally with a bounce, to a rally. So those are my 4 levels. You should have your skill broken down into your 4 levels. Now, with those levels, what is the reward going to be? Are you going to have them sign that piece? Are you going to print something out from the computer, put the construction paper underneath, have them sign it? Are you going to do some sort of checklist? Are you going to say, hey, you earn a red beanbag if you get to level 1, and level 2, you get a blue beanbag? I think signing the name is the super simplest way to do it, and it's on the wall, and kids it's like the wall of fame, I call it. And so you always want to try to get your name on the wall of fame. Or are you going to be elaborate, and are you going to create a big ninja triangle like I did? So this is your chance to think about that now. Step 4 is student choice. Giving students some sort of choice. When students have choice, they feel ownership. They take pride in what they're doing. So remembering to give, like, notice in my volleyball unit, I didn't give them the choice. They had to earn the choice, but it went from balloon, beach ball to volleyball, and giving them a choice, and the skill changes differently, right? And in my volleyball unit, I give them the choice of a partner. So I always let them choose their partner when we do the gamification, because I feel it is part of it, and they have to be honest with themselves. And is this somebody you can work with? And will you be able to achieve these goals with your partner? Because your partner might hold you back if you're not going to work well with one another. And so I might give them that choice. So thinking about what kind of choices you could give your students in this activity is key. So whether it's a choice of equipment, a choice of a group or partner, or a choice of the activity that they're going to accomplish. And so the more choice that the students have, the more engaged they will be, and the more excited they will be to do it. So like if you look at this, this is just another example of throwing, a partner throw and catch. But as you can see at level 1, they throw an object with your partner. So at level 1, they're just throwing and catching the object. But then at level 2, they get to be 5 steps away. And then in level 3, they clap. But then in level 4, they get to pick they start getting to pick the object, and they get to pick a different object each time. So again, it's giving students some sort of ownership over their learning. And again, it might encourage them to try to get to those levels because they want to earn the right to choose their equipment. So again, this is your chance to think about what kind of student choice you're going to implement into your gamification lesson now. And now that you did that, so going forward, hopefully you have accomplished our outcomes and our objectives for today. And you have a work in progress at the very least of an idea of what you're going to do to implement gamification into your PE unit. And you can do that as early as the next unit you do. These are not all of my original ideas. These are my ideas and how I have implemented them into my classroom. But again, 90% of the ideas I have from this presentation and that I use in my classroom is from Mike Ginicola. I call him one of the gamification gurus on Twitter. I think he has some amazing different ideas and different activities and different ways to gamify his lessons. And these are a couple of awesome humans who are on Twitter who share their different ideas and their different gamification strategies that they implement into their classroom. And not to say that you need to use theirs, but you could totally revamp them to make them your own. Just like you could completely revamp my volleyball gamification strategy to be your own and work for your own students. So I hope that we met these objectives for today. I hope you identified a new strategy that maybe you did not realize before. I hope I explained to you how that can differentiate the skill for each of your learners. This is a great way to assess your students because again, when I am tracking or when they are signing the board, I usually do it by classroom. So I see their names and I'm able to kind of informally assess where my students are and what they're learning. And when I am giving that feedback and I am walking around, I am again observing my students, seeing what they're doing, seeing if they're accomplishing the outcomes of the activity, helping them along and to continue to motivate them. I hope that you understand how we can take those aspects of a video game experience and make them appealing and make that a way to motivate your students to be physically active and engaged in your lesson and your content. And I hope you are well on your way of creating your own gamification lesson to use in your upcoming unit. So I thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this. This is my email address, and like I shared with you, this is my email, my Twitter handle, and please come and find me and please email me if you have any questions at all. Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure.